Hello everyone and welcome to Midco Motorsports. I'm your host Brian Shawn. The greatest show on dirt made its way to North Dakota this past weekend for a pair of shows. River City Speedway has become a favorite amongst many drivers on the tour, especially Fargo's Donny Schatz. The North Dakota native has won 9 features in Grand Forks since 2007 and 5 of the last 6 coming into Friday's race at the Bull Ring. 35 sprint cars in the pits, with Schatz looking for win number 11 on the season. He was a busy guy pulling double duty. After finishing second in the dash, he had to climb into his late model, where the Fargo native started on the pole of the 25-lap NLRA feature. Wild action up front with 4 different drivers vying for the lead. Schatz out front early, but several challengers putting the pressure on. They go 3 wide into turn 3, with Manitoba's Ricky Weiss sliding underneath for the lead 6 laps in. Bill Mooney and Travis Robertson also in the mix, but once Weiss took the lead, he never gave it up as he takes the checkered flag, holding off hard-charging Dustin Strand for his 8th victory of the season. Canadians took 3 of the top 4 spots overall, with Mike Balkin coming home 3rd.
Guys were shooting all the marbles from the bottom, and it really worked so you could run in the middle. And we had a good race up front with Robertson and Schatz, and then I think Mooney he was kind of in there, and we were 4 wide for a little while, and was able to get around Schatz, and then just kind of I could roll the middle a little better than the bottom normally. So we just kind of hung out there, and then when the cautions came, I didn't really want to see them, but we made it work.
Then it was time for the 40-lap Outlaw A Main. Winnipeg's Thomas Kennedy set quick time earlier in the night and started on the outside of row 4. Schatz was on the front row with Kerry Madsen. On that start, some trouble for River City Speedway track champion Austin Pierce as he jumps the cushion in turn 1 and takes a tumble down the banking, ending his night. Madsen led the first half of the race, but finally Schatz maneuvers around him on the high side as Madsen gets into lap traffic on lap 25. He would stretch the lead as Brad Sweet tried to track him down with a couple of late cautions, but he would not be able to catch the number 15. As Schatz picks up his 6th victory in his last 7 starts at the track, overall win number 11 on the season.
Man, the racetrack was tricky. That bottom was really hard to stay there. You really had to get slowed up going in, and to get around there, you had to kind of drive around there like it was a late model and stay in that little wet strip, and it's pretty easy to slip out of it. So making mistakes was at a premium, and if you did, someone capitalized on it. That's how I got by Kerry. You know, we got in traffic, and he was forced to stay down there. He didn't want to get off it, and I got off it and got a good run in one corner. I tried it for most of the race and couldn't make nothing happen. So it's the way racing is, man. You got to go where they're not, and tonight it worked for us.
2 days later, the Outlaws headed 200 miles west to Nodak Speedway in Minot. 26-year-old rookie Corey Eliason was on the pole and jumped out to the early lead. Eliason set a strong pace, looking for his 2nd ever Outlaw victory, but as he worked through lap traffic, the rest of the field closed in. Darren Pittman challenged on multiple occasions and took momentum on the outside, taking over the lead on lap 22. He distanced himself from the field after that, winning by more than 3 seconds for his 4th victory of the season. His teammate Sweet rolled into 2nd, with Friday's winner Donny Schatz coming home 3rd. Last year's winner at Nodak, David Gravel, settled for 4th, with Eliason getting shuffled back to 5th. Well, the domination of Donny Schatz has been impressive to say the least. Find out what keeps the 9-time World of Outlaws champion rolling when we come back. Welcome back. It may not seem like there's a whole lot left to prove for Donny Schatz in the sprint car racing world, but based on how things are going for the 9-time World of Outlaws champion in 2018, it's pretty clear that complacency is the furthest thing from his mind. Midco SN's Jody Norstedt caught up with Schatz at his shop in West Fargo in this week's Inside Track.
Pleased to be joined now by Donny Schatz, a 9-time World of Outlaws sprint car champion, inside Donny's shop, where a lot of this, you got cars in the background, you got new stuff like this buggy here that Donny has. Donny, you're back home for a stretch, racing out in Minot, racing out at River City Speedway. Back in your home state, always has to be special. But I think about some of the younger drivers that you get to meet, especially North Dakota drivers. What is that like? What do you tell them about your experience when they're asking you?
Well, it's hard to tell anybody anything, you know, about the experiences of racing with the World of Outlaws. Tell you actually go do it, but it is pretty neat. I remember being back in those days when I was a kid, looked up to a lot of the Outlaw guys, and you know, here we are today, 25 years later from racing, and still enjoy coming here, still have a great time with it, and still eat it up.
You get cheered for a lot when you're back home. Grand Forks, Minot, here in West Fargo. I'm curious to know what it's like though on the road. I mean, you've won so many races, you've won so many times. You're kind of like the New England Patriots, I guess, of sprint car racing. Do you have fans that kind of like to see you lose?
Oh, absolutely. You know, that's what it's all about. You got some that are going to like you, some that are not going to like you. There's some that hate you. But at the end of the day, we're all winners when they come to the races, and we enjoy it. So if you make everybody like you, you're doing something wrong. I don't know anybody that can do that. So you know, it's a sport where sometimes success breeds hate, and it's just the nature of the beast, man. It doesn't deter me from doing anything. I still love doing it, and that's why I'm here. 2008
was the first year that you signed on with Tony Stewart Racing. It's been about 10 years, and Tony has retired since. The last 2 years, retired, right? What's that been like, maybe the last couple of years, how that relationship has evolved for you guys?
Yeah, this will actually be my 11th season with Tony. You know, it's been a great road. Tony's the kind of person that don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness, and that's kind of how he's run this race team. He's hired myself and the 3 guys that are on it. He lets us do our job. He doesn't step on toes. We don't see him all that often. You know, he's now that he's retired from being a full-time NASCAR driver, he's still a NASCAR owner. He still owns his team, but he's more into his dirt aspirations and taking his side-by-side out on weekends and certain things. So he's enjoying life, and it still happens to be a lot at the racetrack.
For you, I mean, I'd imagine I want to look for different experiences. I want to look for different challenges. The last 2 years, you've hopped in one of those midget cars and ran at the Chili Bowl. What has that been like in Tulsa?
It's an incredible event. You know, midgets aren't really something a guy like me gets into. I've never been a very good non-wing racer. Midgets are so small, they're so confined. When you do have something happen, and it's not if, it's when, you know, you're not very comfortable in them for crashing. You know, we're very fortunate in the wing sprint car world that these cars are very safe, and there's a lot of room, and that wing absorbs a lot of that. So yeah, it's been a great event. I enjoyed doing it, but it's not something that you're probably never going to see Donny Schatz's name on the Chili Bowl trophy. But I'm okay with that. You know, I got my forte. I like what I do, and midgets probably isn't something that I'm going to make a common thing with.
Well, you will see Donny Schatz's name on the Jackson Nationals trophy. You won that earlier this month, $40,000 payday, and I know that that's a track that kind of holds a special place in your heart. You went there a lot growing up. How special was that victory?
You know, when you go to these racetracks, you know, when you're from this area and you want to go race with the Outlaws, you got, you know, back in the day we had Red River Valley Speedway and Grand Forks raced on Friday nights, so it was one or the other you could go to. Saturday nights you had Cedar Lake Speedway and Jackson Speedway and Knoxville Raceway. Sunday nights were Sioux Falls. That's kind of was the weekly racing regime for me, other than when they had stuff going on during the week or specials. So I got a lot of laps at Jackson. I got a lot of laps at Cedar Lake, a lot of laps here or there. And anytime you get to go to those places, when you come to an Outlaw show, it's pretty incredible. Anybody that hasn't been to Jackson, there's a lot of history there at the fairgrounds. It's been a lot of great things happen. But what they've done is taken a fairgrounds facility and they've made it a state-of-the-art NASCAR facility for the fans, for the racers, for everyone. So to see somebody put that much passion and effort into a facility like that in this day of age is pretty awesome, and glad to be able to win that event.
You're the points leader, chasing a 10th title. That a big milestone for you? Title number 10?
Absolutely. You know, nothing's going to be more important than that first one. I think that first one is definitely always going to sit as probably the most important one to me. But you're only as good as you were yesterday, and our goal, just because you win a championship, is only to win the next one. You know, we've got ourselves in a great position. We've had a great year. We've had a little adversity. I've got a couple crew guys that we've dealt with some health issues and some injury, which is something we haven't had to deal with in the past. So very proud of my guys for how they've overcome that. how we've rallied together as a team and tried to get ourselves in the winner's circle a few times. And Mother Nature's won more than anybody, but we'll see if we can't change that by the end of the year.
Donnie, appreciate the time. Good luck the rest of the season.
Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, Jody. Schatz and the Outlaws will head to Farley, Iowa and Beaver Dam, Wisconsin for a pair of shows this coming weekend. Well, the future of Badlands Motor Speedway has been cloudy for the past couple of years, and just when you think some answers are finally coming, we're left with even more questions. Analyst Rod Pattison joins us next to talk about it. Welcome back. Badlands Motor Speedway has had its fair share of drama over the past couple of years, and this summer is no exception. The latest involves the grandfather exemption the facility has operated under for more than 30 years. That is what first protected Huset's and then Badlands from the zoning rules of Minnehaha County. However, since there has been no racing at the facility for more than a year, that special status has officially expired, which makes the future of racing in Brandon even more unclear. But there is still debate as to whether or not the status should have expired at all. So for more on that, we bring in longtime Midco SN racing analyst Rod Pattison. Hot Rod, let's start with what happened last week at Minnehaha County Commissioners meeting. You were there. What did you learn?
Well, it's interesting. We met at the meeting. There's probably about 30 to 35 of us racing fans there in support, and about 8 to 10 of us spoke. The interesting thing is when it was time for public input, the commissioners made it very clear that there was some misinformation gathered, that the commissioners themselves do not make the decision on this issue, but it's actually the Planning and Zoning Commission that makes that decision. Scott Anderson, who was the head of that commission, was there. He heard all the testimony, but bottom line is it needs to go through that avenue before anything can be done.
And Chuck Brennan, I think, even said that he believed that this was unjust and unwarranted, the way this kind of all went down. Of course, there is a third party here, and that is the homeowners that live near the racetrack. Here's what one of them had to say at last week's meeting.
Generally speaking, races at Huset's were held on Sunday nights, were not as loud, finished earlier, and rock concerts didn't seem to be nearly as intrusive to the neighborhood. These practices highlight how Huset's was a good neighbor to the community, including families and children with earlier bedtimes, working people who need quiet nights of rest, and others just wanting a peaceful evening. I want to express support for the racetrack, and I want to express support for a conditional use permit. This will allow Brandon Valley residents input as to how the track should operate in order to be a good neighbor as the population grows around it.
Well, that certainly seems reasonable to me, and it sounds like people and the neighbors, as you know, Hot Rod, that people have lived there for a number of years that understand and support this facility. They're not opposed to racing. They just want it to go back to maybe the way it was before on Sundays, get it done at a reasonable hour. Am I right with that?
Yeah, you're right on the head there. You know, Houston Speedway's been there since 1954. And there was no civilization around, really, to be honest with you, except for in Brandon proper. People have moved into that area knowing that there's been races there. There's never been a problem until Mr. Brennan came along and decided to run 2 nights of racing and then rock concerts here and motocrosses there and tractor pulls and mud drags and all these other things. So now all of a sudden, instead of 1 night a week and an occasional special event, now you've got 2 and 3 and sometimes 4 nights a week. And I can completely understand where the homeowners and the residents around that area are starting to get crabby. I really feel, very strongly feel, that if we can come up with a solution of 1 night a week and an occasional special, like on a holiday, 4th of July, et cetera, start at 7 o'clock, be done by 10 o'clock, run mufflers like they do at Knoxville and all the other racetracks in a city area, I really think that we're going to be able to get this deal done. Like that gentleman just said, he's not opposed to racing and he's not opposed to the use permit. I think what they were opposed to is the way that the facility was being used, and if we can just get back to where we were, I think everything's going to be great.
And I think that would be great as well for everybody involved. Sure seems like the ball is in Chuck Brennan's court, but I guess based on past history, that's enough reason right there to make you a little bit uneasy about how this is all going to go down, right?
Well, yeah, it is, but here's the other thing too, that you know, he has lately been in a liquidation mode. I mean, he sold off his radio station frequency and some of his assets with his buildings and pawn shop and gun shop and those types of things. And, you know, he recently lost in litigation with a local radio station here in the Sioux Falls area. I think he's probably getting to the point where enough's enough, but he also wants to make sure to do it correctly. I do know that the lawyers for both sides are meeting this week, and hopefully they can get that rectified before it even goes to a committee meeting next month. Once it's all resolved and once we know we're back to square one again, then the sale can start the process and go through, and cautiously optimistic that we could have racing in 2019 at Houston Speedway.
Well, thanks for the insight as always, Rod. Hopefully this is just one more bump in the road and we can get back to talking about actual racing at this facility. Never seems to be a dull moment. Appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
Well, plenty of other racing tracks were racing last week, and when we come back, we'll drop the green flag on our regional recap. You're watching Midco Motorsports. Welcome back to Midco Motorsports. With 3 of its first 5 scheduled events called off due to weather, the newly rebranded Tri-State Late Model Series has had about all it can handle from Mother Nature. Friday, she finally relented, allowing the season to get back on track at Rapid Speedway. Fans packed the stands last Friday for USRA action and the Tri-State Late Model Series at Rapid Speedway. Pick things up with the Sportsman A feature, where young Bryant Clausen in the 14K jumped out to the early lead and would have to work his way around a couple of lapped cars to pick up his second victory of the season. The USRA Hobby Stocks hit the track, and big trouble would strike for Trevor Crock as he barrel rolls in turn 3. 9 times he would walk away from the incident. The race resumed with heavy hitters in front. Dylan Fitzpatrick, Tracy Holoska, and Dustin Gulbranson would battle. Gulbranson would get to second on a late restart and went door-to-door with Fitzpatrick the final 2 laps. Fitzpatrick sealed the deal, just edging out Gulbranson at the line. The always entertaining USRA stock cars took the track next. Roger Verndorn passed Josh Kelderman early in the race to take the lead. After an early caution, Colby Clausen would overtake Verndorn for the race lead. Clausen would have to hold off feature winners this season, Justin Regenerus and Darren Cortles, with 3 laps to go. Clausen able to do it in the final laps to secure his first career victory in 6 years of racing.
No, this is pretty cool. First one. 6 years I've been doing it and finally got it, so it's pretty awesome. It means a lot, you know, with my dad and my parents and everybody, you know, that helps out on it, so it's pretty cool.
The Tri-State Late Models were the finale on Friday night. Rock Rapids native Nick Bienhoff took advantage of a slip-up by Ben Suckup on lap 1 to take the lead, and Bienhoff drove away from there. He would cross the checkered flag a full straightaway ahead of second place Blair Norduft and his brother Nate.
Seemed like no matter what I did, if I backed up the corner, if I drove it in really hard, there was a big hole and kept bottoming out the frame. And actually it was so rough that my headphone fell out of my left ear, so the whole race I felt like somebody was underneath me the entire time. So I drove like I was running scared.
90 total cars on the track Saturday night at Nobles County Speedway in Worthington, Minnesota. Good finish in the micro sprint feature. Russ Hussman holding the lead with 2 laps to go, but Tim Ottenbacher creates some space and slides by on the inside. Ottenbacher goes on for the victory, his second of the season. 20 USRA Hobby Stocks were in the main event, a flurry of cautions in this one, which may have helped Justin Lunenberg, who started 11th. He worked his way up, picking off cars one by one, and sticking to the bottom, winning his first race of the season. The late model street stocks were next on the track in a scary moment early as Ron Howe climbs the wall on the backstretch and rolls multiple times, but he would walk away unharmed. The story was veteran Jim Pruitt, who was able to hold off all comers and for the first time in 28 years take home the checkered flag.
Used to race and I was out for 24 years. This is my 4th season back. This is my first feature win. It feels good.
Finally, the USRA street stocks wrapped up the night. Worthington's own Trent Schrader would get aggressive, going for the lead, spinning out Spencer Kalis. Schrader hanging on to the lead, but Kurt Lund lurking, finally making his move with 3 laps to go, taking over the lead and hanging on for his first win at Nobles County this season.
He kept catching that rut a little bit in 2, and I just kind of tried to pressure him more to run a little bit harder, and I'd come in a little higher and turn down underneath him, and I could get just about underneath him every lap. It's just that I run out of room, but it seemed to work good.
Coming up, a South Dakota modified driver is a finalist in a national online competition. We'll let you know exactly what's at stake for her after this. Well, like a lot of drivers, Morgan Ward is looking to make a name for herself on the racetrack. Most of that responsibility falls on her, of course, but for the time being, you can help. The Huron, South Dakota native is one of 4 finalists nationally in Valvoline's Fast Track to Fame contest, which is designed to help make the professional racing dreams for one driver a reality.
Please go vote, help me. I'm the only female, the only driver from the Midwest. Everybody else is from down North Carolina, Indiana, stuff like that. So it'd be really cool to bring it back to the home state.
You can cast your votes for Morgan on the contest website, teamvalvoline.com/Fast Track to Fame through July 3rd. The grand prize winner, which will be announced on or around July 10th, will receive cash, Valvoline products, safety equipment, tires, branding, and industry support, a package valued at upwards of $43,000. And last but certainly not least, congratulations to our regular host of Midco Motorsports, Jay Elson, and his wife, Kara, as they welcomed a new member to their family this past weekend. Marley Elizabeth Elson was born on Friday, June 15th at 10:33 a.m. at 7 pounds and 14 ounces. It's the 3rd daughter for the couple. Both mom, baby, and we assume dad are all home and doing well. Congrats to them. That'll do it for this week on Midco Motorsports. Enjoy the races, and we'll see you next time.